Ma'am, you need to come with us. Now. Cold. Flat. Final. 2 security officers lock in on her, one at each side. They move her away from gate B7, away from the glowing sign, First Class, Priority Boarding. Her right hand rolls a silver carry-on. Her left holds a phone to her ear. She's not begging, not asking, just speaking in that low, deliberate tone of someone who has already decided how this ends. Behind, a blonde airline manager in a navy suit trails with arms folded tight. Her eyes never leave the woman in the coral red dress. The heels click. The boots thud. The suitcase wheels hum across the polished floor. Phones are up, cameras rolling. Passengers lean in, whispers rippling. Everyone here thinks they know what they're seeing. They don't. You're making a mistake, she says into the phone. Not to them, to someone who actually matters. The officer on her left flicks a glance at her face. The one on her right keeps his gaze forward, jaw locked, steps sharp. They reach the rope barrier. The right officer's hand closes tighter on her arm. The manager finally speaks. You should have told the truth before it came to this. No answer. Just a slow turn of her head, one look enough to slice through the woman's smirk. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to her. She stops walking, lifts her chin. Voice quieter, sharper. Put your hand down. You don't want to do this. The air shifts. Even the cameras go still. In less than 15 minutes, every person here, officers, manager, bystanders, will learn exactly who they just tried to pull off a plane. Silence. Not the peaceful kind, the heavy, coiled kind that makes people hold their breath without realizing. The officer's grip slackens just a fraction. Enough for her to step forward on her own. Ma'am, walk, she cuts in. But keep your hands to yourself. Her heels click again, steady. Her voice into the phone stays low. Yes, gate B7, record everything. 3 minutes earlier, she'd been seated in 1 ampere, the leather cool against her palms. Boarding nearly done, cabin calm. She'd slipped her phone from her bag, scanning through a contract, $5 billion. 30 years of routes. Her signature would decide it. The attendant had leaned in, voice tight. Ma'am, I'll need to see your boarding pass again. She'd handed it over without looking up. The attendant's polite mask cracked the second she saw the name. Eyes narrowed, lips pressed. This must be a mistake, the woman had said. Seconds later, 2 officers were at her seat. No explanation, just an order. Off the plane. Back in the present, they round the corner of the terminal, the blonde manager still trailing, still wearing that brittle authority like armor. You understand this is for security, the manager says. No, she replies without looking back. This is for your bias. The woman flinches, just slightly. A man filming from the side murmurs, this is gonna blow up online. He's right, but not for the reason he thinks. She reaches into her bag, pulls out a black envelope, hands it to the officer on her left. Give this to your supervisor, she says. He hesitates, opens it. Inside an embossed card, gold letters, a name. His eyes flicker. He swallows hard. Ma'am, who exactly are you? She doesn't answer. Not yet. Because in exactly 12 minutes, the airline's board of directors will be on a conference call, and they'll realize the woman they just humiliated is the same woman who controls the $5 billion they're desperate to secure. For now, she keeps walking, heels clicking, phone at her ear, the storm still gathering behind her eyes. The terminal doesn't know it yet, but the real boarding call hasn't even started. They guide her toward a quieter corner of the terminal, far from gate B7, far from the eyes and whispers. She stops, doesn't sit, doesn't slouch. The suitcase stays by her side like a sentinel. The blonde manager steps forward, tone still coated in corporate politeness. We'll just need to verify some information with our headquarters. Standard protocol. No, she says. Your protocol ended the moment you pulled me from that seat. The officers exchange a look. They're starting to realize this isn't a routine removal. She lifts the phone, presses a single button. The call connects instantly. It's me. We're moving forward today. On the other end, a voice sharp with urgency. Understood. Full withdrawal? Her eyes lock on the manager. Every cent. The manager frowns, not understanding yet. 3 gates away, boarding continues. First-class passengers settle into their champagne-lit seats, oblivious. She steps aside, pacing slowly, her heels slicing through the hush. Send the board notice now. Mention my name first. I want them to feel it before they read it. The officer on her left whispers to the other, board notice? The second shrugs, but his gaze keeps flicking to that gold-embossed card in his pocket. The manager forces a smile. I'm sure we can clear this up. If you'll just… You had your chance to clear it up, she interrupts. Her voice isn't raised, but it carries weight enough to make the officer straighten his posture. On her phone, a chime. Message sent. The $5 billion funding withdrawal is now in motion. Somewhere in a glass tower office, alarms are going off, not the kind that evacuate buildings, the kind that evacuate careers. She finally turns to the officers. Gentlemen, I won't hold you responsible, but you may want to let go of my arm before your chief calls you. They hesitate. Then, slowly, they do. The blonde manager steps back. Her confidence is cracking, hairline fractures spreading fast. The CEO takes a breath, rolls her shoulders back. She's no longer just the woman in the coral dress being escorted out. She's the storm about to tear through this airline's future. In less than 5 minutes, the call from corporate will come. And when it does, everyone here will know exactly who they just tried to humiliate. The chime of her phone cut through the stale terminal air. She didn't even look at the screen before answering. Put them through. A man's voice came first, calm, measured, but carrying the kind of authority that makes people stop talking. Ma'am, the board is assembled. All 11 members. They've been briefed on the incident. She turned slightly so the officers and the manager could hear every word. Tell them I'm still at gate B7. Correction, I was. Your staff removed me without cause. Begin recording. The blonde manager shifted her weight, the smirk from earlier now gone. Is this some kind of threat? She tilted her head, eyes narrowing just enough to make the woman flinch. Not a threat, a report. On the line, another voice, a woman this time, clipped and brisk. Miss Carter, the withdrawal paperwork has been executed. Treasury confirms $5 billion will be moved out by close of business. Would you like us to issue the public statement now, or hold until you land? The officers froze. The manager's jaw slackened. Hold, she said, her gaze locked on the manager. I want to watch them process it first. The first officer cleared his throat. Ma'am, are you saying you fund this airline? She didn't answer him. She wanted the manager to ask. And she did. Voice barely above a whisper. Who are you? The question hung between them. A few passengers had wandered closer, sensing something big was unfolding. Phones lifted higher. She stepped forward, closing the gap until she was just 2 feet from the woman who'd ordered her off the plane. I'm the reason your paycheck's clear. The manager blinked hard, as if trying to reset the moment. That's impossible. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, then back up. Not according to your CFO. Somewhere across the terminal, a voice crackled over the PA system, calling the manager's name. It wasn't a gate update, it was the tone of someone being summoned, urgently, to explain themselves. The officers took a small step back. The manager stayed rooted, face pale. You should take that call, she said. It's the one where they tell you the damage is already done. And for the first time since gate B7, the blonde turned and walked away fast. The CEO watched her go, her phone still in hand, the board still on the line. Now, she said into the receiver, we proceed to phase 2. Somewhere deep inside the airline's corporate servers, doors were starting to close. The PA crackled again, sharper this time. Security Chief Roberts to gate B7 immediately. Repeat Security Chief Roberts to gate B7. Every head within earshot turned. The officers beside her straightened unconsciously, like soldiers sensing a change in command. Her phone stayed at her ear. You're live with the board, came the voice from the other end. And they're listening to everything. The first officer's eyes flicked to the phone, then to her face, then back to the terminal entrance. His grip was gone now, not from compliance, but from understanding that holding her even 1 second longer could end his career. The blonde manager reappeared, flushed and tense, a senior security chief shadowing her. He walked with the kind of authority that usually shuts situations down. Today, he was about to shut down the wrong person. Miss Carter, he started, Stop, she said, lifting a hand without raising her voice. Before you speak, know that every word will be in the official record the board has in front of them right now. Robert's mouth closed. He looked to the manager, then back to her, weighing every breath. From the phone came the CFO's voice, unmistakable and cool. Effective immediately, Miss Carter. You are authorized to enact full operational freeze on Horizon Air assets linked to the current gate team. The manager paled. That's not necessary, she stammered. It's overdue, Carter replied. She nodded once toward Roberts. Collect their badges. It was as if the air itself dropped 10 degrees. The manager's protest died in her throat as Roberts hesitated, then reached for her ID lanyard. The click of the clasp releasing was louder than the gate announcements overhead. Passengers whispered openly now, phones raised high to catch every second. A man in a leather jacket muttered, "I've never seen anything like this." The officers exchanged a look. One removed his own badge and handed it over without being told. The board's voice still hummed in her ear. "Do you want us to send formal press language now?" "Not yet," she said, eyes still locked on the shrinking figure of the manager. "I want them to feel the room turn first." It already had. What had started as murmurs was now applause, quiet at first, then building, not for spectacle, but for the satisfaction of seeing arrogance collapse in real time. She lowered the phone slightly, enough for Roberts to hear. "Consider your $5 billion problem solved, but not the way you expected." Roberts swallowed hard. The manager didn't look back. And Miss Carter? She adjusted the strap of her bag, stepped toward the gate she'd been dragged from, and walked like she'd never been stopped. This time, no one got in her way. The boarding gate door slid open with a hiss. Every head inside the jet bridge turned toward her. Minutes ago, she'd been led down this same walkway under the grip of 2 security officers. Now, she walked alone, heels sharp against the metal floor, head high, a silence trailing behind her like a crown. Behind her, the security chief followed at a respectful distance, not touching, not speaking. His radio crackled faintly, the only sound breaking the tension. A flight attendant at the cabin door stiffened when she appeared. The color drained from her face as recognition set in. She stepped aside, murmuring, "Welcome back, Miss Carter." "No, ma'am," this time. No forced smile masking suspicion, just a tone stripped of ego. She stepped into first class. Conversations died mid-sentence. Glasses of champagne froze halfway to lips. In 1 Ampere, her bag still rested in the overhead. No one had dared move it. A man in 1B leaned slightly toward her, voice low. "I saw everything. They're done for." She didn't answer. Just stowed her carry-on, smoothed the skirt of her coral dress, and sat. From the aisle, the blonde manager's absence was louder than her presence had been. In her place, a senior operations officer hovered, clearly briefed to keep a safe distance. Over the PA, the captain's voice came on formal, almost stiff. "Ladies and gentlemen, there will be a brief delay as we finalize boarding procedures. We appreciate your patience." In corporate speak, it meant, "We're cleaning up a disaster in real time." She took her phone from her bag. A message flashed across the screen, "Press release drafted, awaiting your approval." Her thumb hovered over the reply, but she didn't press send. Not yet. Instead, she glanced around the cabin. Every set of eyes that met hers held a mix of curiosity, respect, and the unspoken awareness that they'd just witnessed something rare power used without raising a voice. A ripple of whispers moved down the aisle. "She's the investor. She owns part of the airline. That's the woman they dragged out." The same passengers who had looked away earlier now held her gaze a little longer, as if silently apologizing for believing the worst. She adjusted her seatbelt, settled back, and finally spoke into the phone. "Phase 3 when we land. And make sure the board knows this is only the beginning." Outside the window, the luggage crew moved slower than usual. Or maybe time itself had shifted, stretched by the weight of what had just happened. Somewhere in the terminal, the manager was explaining herself to people whose patience came with a $1 billion price tag. In 1 Ampere, Miss Carter closed her eyes for a moment, the faintest smile playing at the corner of her mouth. The plane hadn't even left the ground, and the airline was already falling. The seatbelt sign was still lit when the first chime came from her phone. One message, then another, then dozens. Headlines, mentions, links. A single video grainy, shot from the gate now flooding every platform. It showed her being pulled from her seat in first class, her calm against their force, the blonde manager's fingers stabbing the air. Overlaid captions screamed, "Investor removed from her own airline," and $5 billion deal gone in 3 minutes. The man in 1B leaned over just enough to see her screen. His eyebrows shot up. That's already got 1 million views. She didn't look at him, just scrolled, absorbing the speed of the storm she'd set in motion. Her legal team had leaked nothing. This was organic, fueled by every passenger with a phone, every viewer who recognized bias when they saw it. 2 rows behind. Whispers spread. Wait, that's her? She's the reason they're losing the funding? She could feel the shift, the subtle recalibration of how people saw her. No longer just a passenger in a bright dress. Now, a headline, a movement, a reminder. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was the comms director. "Miss Carter, the statement's ready. If we release now, it'll hit while the story's trending at peak." "Do it," she said, "and put the manager's name in it. People should know who represents this airline." The comms director hesitated. "That will end her career." "She ended it herself," Carter replied, voice steady. Outside the window, the clouds stretched endless and white, serene, a stark contrast to the turbulence she was unleashing below. Within minutes, her statement was live. A senior investor in Horizon Air was forcibly removed from first class today due to unfounded accusations by on-site staff. Effective immediately, a $5 billion funding withdrawal is in motion. The responses were instant. Support from civil rights organizations. Hashtags demanding accountability. Stock analysts posting urgent downgrades. A flight attendant passed by, eyes darting to her before quickly looking away. She could sense their unease, not fear of her, but fear of what her presence now meant. The captain's voice broke over the intercom, a touch tighter than before. "Ladies and gentlemen, we expect some light turbulence ahead." In 1 ampere, Miss Carter allowed herself a small, knowing smile. For the airline, the turbulence was only beginning. At 38,000 feet, the cabin was calm. Down on the ground, the airline was bleeding. Her phone screen lit up with live market updates. Horizon Air stock down 4% in the first 20 minutes after the statement dropped. Now, it was plummeting past 9%, red numbers cascading like falling glass. A new message from her CFO. Board emergency session underway. 3 members are pushing for the CEO's resignation before market close. She sipped the champagne the attendant had poured without meeting her eyes. The bubbles rose, steady and unhurried, everything the board's current reality was not. In a glass-walled conference room miles below, the directors' voices were raised, their ties loosened, their screens filled with the same viral video looping over and over. A reporter's voice came over a news feed in her notifications. "We have confirmation that the passenger forcibly removed earlier today is, in fact, Horizon Air's largest single investor." Click. Another clip. Now an anchor with a serious brow. "This incident is triggering conversations nationwide about bias in luxury travel and corporate accountability." Her thumb scrolled past the commentary, straight to a livestock ticker. The drop was accelerating. Every point down was another reminder to the board. She had been their future. 1B leaned in again. "They're saying the CEO might step down before you land." "Not my decision," she replied, eyes still on her phone, "but it's the right one." 2 rows ahead, a woman in business attire was texting furiously. Carter didn't need to guess someone was relaying updates to ground contacts, maybe even to the airline's PR team. It didn't matter. The story was beyond their control now. Her phone buzzed again this time. A photo. The blonde manager, walking out of Horizon's regional HQ, escorted by 2 HR officers, her badge gone. Captioned, "Removed from duty. Pending investigation." She allowed herself one slow breath. "Not satisfaction resolution." The captain's voice returned, smoother now, as if word had already reached the cockpit. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been cleared for a more direct route. We expect to arrive ahead of schedule." She looked out at the endless blue horizon. The irony wasn't lost on her. Horizon Air would land her early, even as its own future was arriving at the edge of collapse. On the ground, reporters were already gathering at the arrival gate. In the air, Miss Carter crossed her legs, set down her champagne, and prepared for the next move. Because this was no longer about one gate, one flight, or even one airline. It was about the message, and she wasn't done sending it. The tires kissed the runway with a muted thud. The cabin shifted with the subtle forward pull as the engines reversed. Outside, the city stretched under a pale gold afternoon light. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to New York," the captain's voice intoned. "Local time is 3:27 p.m., and the temperature is a pleasant 72 degrees. Pleasant for the weather, not for Horizon Air." From her seat in 1 Ampere, Carter could see the flurry of ground crew through the oval window. Not just baggage carts and fuel trucks, news vans. At least 4. Antennas up, lenses pointed at the arrival gate. Her phone buzzed. Media, CNN, CNBC, Bloomberg, New York T, all confirmed at gate C14. She powered it off. The rest could wait. This moment wasn't about managing a story, it was about owning it. The seatbelt sign blinked off. Passengers sprang up, tugging bags from overhead bins. But in first class, movement slowed near her row. They were waiting, intentionally or not, to see what she'd do. The forward door opened. Warm air and the scent of jet fuel drifted in. The jet bridge connected with a dull clunk. She rose smoothly, retrieving her carry-on without hurry. The attendant who had once eyed her with suspicion now stood rigid, offering a quiet, "Thank you for flying with us, miss." Carter. No smile, no warmth, just acknowledgement. She stepped into the jet bridge. A wall of sound greeted her shutter clicks, shouted questions, the low hum of live news feeds. "Miss Carter, will you comment on the incident? Is the $5 billion withdrawal final? Do you believe you were targeted because of race?" She didn't break stride. The crowd parted slightly as she moved. The wheels of her suitcase whispering against the carpet. Cameras flashed in rapid bursts, lighting her face in strobe. At the gate, a cluster of reporters pressed forward. She stopped just long enough for every lens to frame her. "Today wasn't about a boarding pass," she said, her voice cutting clean through the chaos. "It was about dignity, and if an airline can't recognize that in its own investors, how will it treat its passengers?" The words hung for a beat. Then, with the precision of someone who knew exactly how long it would take to trend, she turned and walked on. Behind her, the questions multiplied, the flashes intensified, and somewhere in a boardroom, someone was realizing this clip would run on a loop for the next 48 hours. She didn't look back, not once. Because this wasn't the end of the flight, it was the takeoff of something bigger. By the time Carter's car pulled away from the terminal, the video of her walking through the arrival gate was already everywhere. On TikTok, it looped with dramatic captions. On Twitter, it came with threads dissecting every glance, every pause, every word. On financial news tickers, it rolled beneath plunging charts. Her team's group chat was a constant stream. Number Horizon bias trending number 1 inch the US. Change.org petition at 150,000 signatures in 3 hours. CNBC calling this the $5 billion lesson. She sat in the back seat, phone on silent. Outside, the skyline blurred by, lit by late afternoon sun. Inside, she replayed the gate manager's face, the precise moment confidence turned to panic. In a Manhattan conference room, Horizon Air's board was still locked in heated debate. Leaked snippets of their emergency session were already on business blogs. Cannot contain the narrative. Market confidence shaken. She controls the equity line, gentlemen. One outlet broke in with a developing banner. Sources say Horizon CEO tendering resignation effective immediately. Her driver glanced at her in the rearview mirror. They're saying you brought the airline to its knees in under a day. She didn't answer. Not yet. Her phone buzzed with a text from the comms director. Do we greenlight Phase 4? She typed back. At 7 p.m. Eastern. People need time to digest the fall before they see the rebuild. Because Phase 4 wasn't about punishment anymore, it was about proving that her leadership, her standards, could replace what arrogance had rotted. Outside, a digital billboard flashed her image mid-step from the gate, the headline beneath it reading, "Power moves quietly, until it doesn't." Oh, she allowed herself the smallest smile. This wasn't just an airline story anymore. Civil rights advocates were weighing in. Law professors were using the footage in lectures about implicit bias. Investment analysts were calling it a case study in leverage. By evening, late-night talk shows would joke about it. By morning, op-eds would debate it. But for the people who watched it unfold, who saw her pulled from a seat she'd earned, and then walk back into it untouched, the message was already clear. Power didn't need to shout. It only needed to be seen. And now, the world had seen hers. At exactly 7 p.m. Eastern, Carter's official statement went live. The opening line wasn't about Horizon Air's failure, it was about what came next. Leadership is measured not by how you avoid mistakes, but by how you correct them. Effective immediately. My investment firm will be working to restructure Horizon Air's executive team and implement mandatory equity and inclusion training across all staff levels. In under 2 minutes, it was being read aloud on primetime news broadcasts. Screens split between her photo and a live feed from Horizon's headquarters, where security escorted more senior executives out of the building. Her phone pinged with messages from fellow investors. Savage move. Respect. You just turned a scandal into a legacy project. Count us in for the rebuild fund. From her penthouse conference room, she watched the coverage unfold on 3 different monitors. One showed a financial analyst explaining how her withdrawal threat had been the trigger event, forcing the board's compliance. Another showed a civil rights leader calling it a blueprint for systemic change in corporate America. The third monitor streamed a live Q&A. She'd authorized a town hall with Horizon employees. A young gate agent, clearly nervous, asked, "Miss Carter, why didn't you just walk away after they treated you like that?" She didn't hesitate. "Because walking away changes my day. Fixing it changes their future." In the comments section, hearts and clapping emojis flooded in. She leaned back in her chair, the city lights winking through the glass behind her. Her team updated her on the progress. CEO resignation effective. Interim CEO vetted and approved. E-learning equity module launching in 10 days. All gate staff nationwide to complete training within 45 days. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about the imprint leaving the company stronger than she found it, but on her terms. A final alert came through from her legal team. Settlement offer received. NDA clause proposed. She typed a quick reply. Decline. This isn't about silence. By the time the statement closed the late-night news cycle, the narrative had shifted again. No longer a headline about bias. Now, it was, Investor Turns Airline Scandal into Model for Corporate Reform. For Carter, it was simple math. They'd tried to take her seat. She'd taken their culture, rewrote it, and made sure her name would be attached to the transformation forever. A week later, she was back at an airport. Different city, different airline terminal. Same silver carry-on, same coral red dress. The cameras were still following her, though now at a respectful distance, their flashes muted, their questions measured. She walked past the check-in counters without stopping. Past the TSA line that opened instantly at her approach, straight to the private lounge entrance, where the attendant stood ready. "Welcome, Miss Carter. First-class boarding is open whenever you're ready." She nodded once, stepped through the frosted glass doors. Inside, the lounge was quiet. Floor-to-ceiling windows spilled sunlight across leather seating. A champagne flute waited on the table by her chair. She sat, crossing one leg over the other, and let her eyes drift out to the tarmac. Her phone buzzed, not with crisis alerts this time, but with progress updates. Equity training completed at 27% of locations. Interim CEO requesting strategy meeting. Share price stabilizing after reform announcement. She scrolled past them, stopping at one notification, a video clip. It was the original footage from Gate B7, her being escorted out, calm and unshaken. She watched it for a moment, then tapped forward to another clip, her walking back onto the plane, alone, head high. 2 images, 2 moments. Together, they told the real story. In the reflection of the glass, she saw her own face, not smiling, not smug, just certain. The lounge attendant approached softly. "We're ready to escort you to your seat, Miss Carter." She rose, collected her bag, and followed. The jet bridge hummed beneath her heels. At the cabin door, the purser greeted her warmly. "Your seat is 1 ampere as always." She placed her carry-on overhead, sat, and buckled in. The leather was cool, familiar. The cabin was still boarding, but in her mind, she'd already arrived. Because this being exactly where she chose to be, On her terms was the point. Power wasn't about shouting or grandstanding. It was about sitting in the seat they tried to take from you, and making sure everyone knew you never left it. As the plane taxied out, she glanced once more at the horizon. Not the airline's name. The real one, the line where sky meets earth. The place where you choose your direction and keep moving forward.